the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, Season 4. Let's go, baby. Yeah. There was a time I had trouble talking about it. Congratulate them, we know they doubted. Somehow we made it up out the pit, back against the wall, never quit. Traversing through each obstacle, show a non-believer what's possible. Let nothing they could do stand in between me and my wildest dreams. Let's go. Nothing that come at us could come in between. Life gave me the worst, yet my side grew so green. We've been down in the dirt, been tossed in the trash, but I never strayed from my path. When we're gone, we ain't looking back.
Maybe we were all way too high. Maybe that's our fault.
It's going to be a crazy time, but it's going to be a fun time.
Life is boring if you don't take some chances and do some things outside of the box.
Your destination for both some feel-good lifestyle advice and some fantasy football advice. All right, everyone. Welcome in. It is Wednesday, July 13th, 2022. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, back here with you, getting you through the offseason. Draft season almost here for you, folks. For some of us, it is here. Seth back here with you. Scott joined me as usual. Scott, how's it going out there, brother? Been a crazy last couple weeks here in the fantasy scene.
It has, but man, it sure is an exciting week with Scott Fishbowl drafts going. We're in a speed racer draft, apparently. We're already into round 12. Shout out Pawnee Division, aka Parks and Rec Division. It's been an absolute blast. We have a rule in our divisional chat that you have to use only Parks and Rec gifts, which a few of us, even including myself, I accidentally used a non-Parks and Rec gift once. But anyway, it's been a really fun time. Everybody's been very active, and maybe in a few minutes, it's possible I'm on the clock. So
okay, awesome. Well, guys, it's great to have everyone here tonight. Nate and Jen, they're on their way to Mexico very soon, so we gave them the week off here, a little vacation time for the couple. They're going to be down south enjoying their time with their son. But in their place, we have a very special member of the In Between media staff, someone who's come on this year and has absolutely kicked butt in whatever she's been doing, whether it's out there on the general Twitter sphere, whether it's in her column Trash Talk, in her YouTube series that she co-does with you, Scott, Pulp Fantasy, Trash Sandwiches. What's up, Trash?
Hey, happy to be here. I am, like Seth said, a writer and editor over at In Between Media. I just started this offseason. It's been kind of a wild ride, and I'm going head first into it. First ever podcast. Forgive me. I'm super nervous. But I think it'll be a great time. It's a good crew. So happy to be here outside of fantasy football. I'm a big crafter, mostly knitting, a little bit of sewing. You probably all have seen my dog, Stella. She's pretty cool, kind of a big deal in my life. But I don't know, like Seth said, I live the life of a grandmother. So those are my exciting hobbies. But yeah, happy to be here, even though it's like kind of past my bedtime or getting up there. But I'll make it through.
So Trash, for anyone listening for the first time meeting her, she has very interesting hobbies. She knits a lot of hats, sometimes football hats. She has a dog, Stella. I know she goes to bed early, but you do rollerblade, which is a very young and hip, trendy thing to do. So how did that kind of start, Trash?
I saw the cool girls on Instagram doing it, and I wanted to do it. And I am not very good. It's great. I have some real fun cheetah print roller skates. Having a good time. I have a giant scrape on my knee, which hurts a lot because I ate it hard last time I was out there. But gotta be bad at something to be good at something. So here I am.
Just got to keep getting back up, man. That's how you got to do it. I want to thank everyone from YouTube joining us tonight. We got Toronto Dave in the chat. It's been a while, Dave. Good to see you back here from the cool side of Canada over there. We got our buddy Dale, Eat Sleep Fantasy, in the chat as well. Good to see you, Dale. And then we have Joey Wright as well. Joey's hanging out. Good friends over there at FYF. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Scott and I, we had the pleasure of being on the Scott Fishbowl Podathon over the weekend with Nate, a little late night appearance. Our boy Shane was hosting. Great time. I just kind of wanted to throw it back out there. If you guys do want to contribute to what Scott Fish and everyone over there at the Scott Fishbowl Podathon's doing, go to scottfishbowl.com/give. There's still time to continue to donate throughout the off season. So I just want to keep plugging that as much as we can. Scott, or Trash, in terms of Scott Fishbowl, how are you doing? I know drafts are kind of moving here at varying pace.
Yeah, I'm in a pretty slow draft. It's cool. We've made it through 4 rounds. I am hoping to do my 509 pick before I go to sleep tonight. We'll see how that happens. But I like it. I kind of went, I don't want to say on tilt, but outside my usual draft strategy early. Started with Joe Burrow and then Jalen Hurts. That is not something that I usually do, but last year I kind of got screwed over with the quarterbacks throughout the season. Feeling like mixing it up. I was debating DeAndre Swift, so I was really happy that he then fell to me in the 3rd. Then I went with the T. Higgins stack. I am now kind of seeing what happens, hoping I can get Keenan Allen in the 5th. We'll see. Hopefully none of my competitors are listening, and at least not the 2 coming on the clock tonight. But
Trash, we do have a question here from Dave as well. Are you a roller blader or a roller skater? I guess we should have clarified that.
Roller skate 2x2.
Okay. Fair enough. Scott, how is your draft going, brother? I believe you said you're in the Pawnee division, Parks and Rec.
Yes. Yeah. Drafted out of the 1.06. I think, it's the best team I've ever drafted. Right. No, it's similar for me. Like this, I think it's showing some I don't know, some maturing. That's a shout out to Parks and Rec, by the way. Some maturing in my discipline. I didn't draft a running back till the 5th round for the first time probably in my entire life. And I'm doing it in Scott Fishbowl. So I started off with Lamar Jackson, started off with a stud QB. Then I went with my guy, Kyle Pitts Hive. I might, he's been kind of bouncing around where he's been taken. And I probably, based on how the tight ends ended up going in the early rounds, I probably could have waited. But I'm just all in on Kyle Pitts. So, and then I went with some receivers, Diggs and Mike Evans. So that's just not my typical style. It is not my typical style. And then I had Zeke sitting there in the 5th. And so I'm like, I'll take Zeke in the 5th as my running back. So I know that, I know a few of my competitors are in the chat. I know Jordan's in the chat because he's the one I was telling you guys pre-show that,
a little sniper action.
You've been sniping each other a little bit. I think I'm winning the sniping battle, and I don't think he's really hoping I don't snipe him live on air. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It's possible. Looking at his team and his team needs, it's possible that I might snipe him. We'll see.
Oh, so, hey man,
it's been really fun. The Pawnee division is super duper fun. It's been a blast. Like I said, everybody's been super active in the chat, and it's just so much fun. So.
Yeah, man, it is just such a special time around the fantasy football industry. We're blessed to be here. Had a great time this run in Scott Fishbowl as well myself. Kind of went with what TS was doing down there. Went with the double QB early. My cup of choice was Russell Wilson and Jalen Hurts. So was really vibing with that. I am in the Letterkenny division. So shout out to our guy Toronto Dave out there, paying a little homage to your home country there. But after that, I went Najee, fell to me in the 3rd. And then I love that tight end value, whether it's in Scott Fishbowl, whether it's in redraft that we talk so much about, every single season here at In Between Media. So I came back, George Kittle, Darren Waller was sitting there in the 5th. So got that double tight end stack. Waited. I always wait too long on a receiver in Scott Fishbowl. That's kind of the name of my game here. Jerry Jeudy is the only wide receiver on my team right now, currently in the 8th round. But guys, I am up on the clock right now. So
so am I.
All right, Scott, why don't you take it for us first, man? I know you're 13th, 14th round for us?
12th round.
Okay. 12th round here. Scott Rainier on the clock in the Scott Fishbowl. What do you got for us, Scott?
We'll see if this makes anybody happy or not. So I kind of gave my roster, went stud QB early, and then I've got a couple of, honestly, I have Stephon Diggs and I was debating between Diggs and Evans in round 3. I think Seth, I was talking in the chat, like, what do you guys think? I ended up going Diggs, And then Evans was still there in round 4. So I grabbed, because to me, those are two guys, because, everybody's talking about Adams, talking about Kupp. Those are two guys who easily, in my opinion, could finish as the overall wide receiver 1. So, and I typically don't go, heavy wide receiver early. So I gave it a shot. I've kind of thrown some darts at some running backs. I took Zeke in the 5th. So, and then I took Rashad Bateman in the 6th. So I, was kind of starting to feel the pressure of running backs a little bit. Kind of a homer pick, but I went with
that bottom dropping off a little
bit. But
Yeah.
I'm not, at the same time, I'm just not that worried about it. I mean, not that I'm like, oh, I'm just going to win no matter what. Haha.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean. I'm just choosing not to stress about it because it's fun and it's charity and it's Scott Fishbowl. But I went with a homer pick. I took Kenneth Walker as my RB2. I really wanted Pollard, but I didn't really want to do Zeke and Pollard as my first 2 running backs.
Absolutely.
So I did Pollard as my RB3 coming around. And then even though I've been very vocal about being low on James Cook, wrote an article about it for Fantasy Data, I still went ahead and took a swing on James Cook because I think he's the type of guy to take a swing on once you start getting to the double-digit rounds.
Absolutely.
Like it could go nowhere, but he's not my starter. It could also smash in PPR. So where I'm at now is, I got Justin Fields in there, 6th round. So I do have a second quarterback.
That's a stinky pick, bud. But I'll leave that for you to figure out.
We'll see about that. I'm on the other side of that argument.
We're going to get into that tonight. That's going to be a heated discussion. We bring up these Bears.
So I sit here in the 12th round with 2 quarterbacks in Superflex and only 1 tight end in tight end premium. So that's where I'm looking.
Okay.
Cole Kmet, my guy, Seth's favorite. Seth started, anybody watching doesn't know the history. Seth started the Cole Kmet Club. You've heard of the Cole Kmet Club. Seth started it. He doesn't remember starting it. Sober Scott's the one that had to bring it back up, and then it actually ballooned into a club. But Seth started it anyway. So Cole Kmet just went. He was one of my guys. Irv Smith just went. He was going to be one of my guys. So I am taking one of the last technically starting quarterbacks left on our board and stacking him with Kyle Pitts, and that's Marcus Mariota, for better or for worse. Pick has been made.
Okay. I like that. Was Geno Smith on the board, Scott?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, Mariota, obviously I'm not excited to have.
Looks like you sniped Jordan once again, Scott.
He also only had 2 QBs, so I figured it could be him. But the way I look at it is, I believe in Justin Fields, and obviously Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. So waiting this long on my QB3, I want a guy like his competition, regardless of how well he plays, is a rookie that a lot of people think is unproven and not ready to start in Ritter. So he's a starting quarterback. At this point, I mean, I didn't want to take Mariota in the 12th round. I would have loved to have waited a little bit longer, but Baker Mayfield was another guy I was going to go after 1 round earlier because he's a starting quarterback in Superflex, and he got picked. So I kind of just had to bite the bullet. There's obviously there's always going to be some decent wide receiver and running back value in Superflex when you start. Cause I mean, I hate picking based on need, and I really didn't. I've stayed pretty disciplined through the first 10 rounds to not pick based on need. But I don't want to go in with my 3rd quarterback being a rookie who might not play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or Geno Smith, who might not play.
I'm a little hot on that Geno train. Trash, you hot on that Geno train at all with me?
No, I'd go Mariota over Geno. Sorry. I don't think I want either of
I think
quarterbacks. I don't know who's going to start, and I don't want either.
I was kind of hoping, maybe 5 minutes before our podcast, Garoppolo got traded to the Hawks, and I would just scoop him up, but it did not happen. And I don't think it necessarily is going to.
We will talk a little more on Baker Mayfield too. I'm seeing that in the chat. So we are going to talk about that later on, what the fantasy implications are of that. If you guys I know we have some people from the Letterkenny division too. I'm on the clock in that right now as well. So I can go ahead and make a live pick here as well. I'm sitting the 8th round. I kind of previewed my team for you guys. Right now wide receivers is the need here. I know Scott said I probably shouldn't be drafting solely on need, but I really think I need it at this point. Devonta Smith is on the board. That's kind of where I want to go with this pick. I have a 1 stack with Jerry Jeudy, Russell Wilson. This would give me the Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith. So I'm kind of getting the value stack. I'm not going full send. I'm not going out for a luxurious meal here, but I'm going to that, Wendy's 4 for $4 menu, whatever you want to call it. What do you guys think of Devonta Smith here? Also, other people on the board include Tyler Lockett, Chase Claypool, Brandon Ayuk. I know we're going to talk about him a little bit later as well in the show.
I think I'd go Smith over any of them.
I'd rather have Smith than those names you mentioned. The only one Claypool I might consider is Ayuk, but I think you can get Ayuk later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Claypool would be the one that I'd maybe waffle with, but I'd still go Smith.
I just think it depends on what you think about Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts is just like skyrocketed to a top 5 QB. I'm going to keep my mouth shut about it because he could easily do that with his rushing ability. But if you believe in him as being able to move that offense with the pieces they've added, then you believe in Devonta Smith. I get it. They have Goddard. Obviously, they brought in Arthur Juan Brown, but he showed out last year at times, and I think he's going to be. I don't think he's ever going to threaten to be the wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Yeah, but I think he's the type of receiver that could attract a lot of targets and be really good in the SFB format.
Absolutely. Well, guys, the pick is in. I got some reconfirmation from my host here, from the chat as well. We appreciate that, guys. So we are good on that. Scott Fishbowl. It's not in the rear view quite yet, but in our discussion today, it is. We're going to go ahead and move into front and center here. We're going to talk about some of the latest fantasy news, including what to make of Baker Mayfield on the Panthers now, guys. But before we do that, the easiest way to support us here at In Between Media, if you're new to the channel, please give us a thumbs up on this video if you are enjoying the content, and please subscribe as well. You can learn when we go live. You can join the In Between Media family. We're here every other Wednesday right now. During the season, we will be weekly, possibly even twice a week as well. So we're going to bring you the best fantasy football, best fantasy NASCAR, best fantasy golf content we can here at IBT. So please subscribe if you aren't already. And guys, why don't we fire up some front and center here?
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between. How about you come to the place where you have some fun? Ain't gotta worry about knowing not what it means. You can come and give me another, cause the night is young. At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and center.
All right, you guys know the drill on front and center. We're going to break it down fantasy football style. Baker Mayfield traded last week to the Carolina Panthers for a 5th-round conditional pick. That price of that pick could possibly go up depending on those conditions. We're not exactly sure yet. Browns, they're going to be paying $10.5 million of Baker's salary. The other $5 million is going to come from the Panthers. Baker did take about a $3 million pay cut to make it work, but he can make that up in incentives. I'm guessing it's, somewhere around 75% of the snaps is something he has to play. We'll see when those numbers do come out. Scott, I want to start with you here. How are you feeling that this first shakes up the Carolina offense, if at all? Baker Mayfield had a couple solid seasons in the NFL, really regressed in 2021, torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder. So do you think Baker can make an impact here, whether it be DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall Jr., a guy you like, possibly Robbie Anderson if he's back, or good old CMC?
First of all, I don't really like Terrace Marshall Jr. anymore.
You did.
He was my sleeper last year. I'll admit it. In our draft guide, he was my sleeper, and that crashed and burned. We'll see. No, but I think, to me, it's almost not. I don't want to say a best case scenario, but like for Baker, now he has a shot to start and either prove it in Carolina or prove it to another team. Like nothing was going to happen in Cleveland. Nothing at all was going to happen in Cleveland. Yeah. So, him taking the pay cut, it really kind of sucks how that all went down. But Cleveland's just kind of a big on fire garbage receptacle right now anyway. So it's good for Baker, obviously. That kind of goes without saying. I think Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. I don't think that's necessarily going out on any big limb.
No.
And I keep, it wasn't his throwing shoulder last year, but I mean, I've never played quarterback in the NFL, but I have to imagine if you've got some shoulder injury to your non-throwing arm, it's going to impact it. For one, physically, it could impact your throwing motion, but it's going to impact your instincts. It's going to impact your, willingness to take a hit, whether it's conscious or subconscious. You know what I mean? I just can't imagine it didn't have a negative impact on him. I'm not saying he's going to go to Carolina and be, live up to the number 1 overall pick in the draft that he was.
Well, that ship sailed. Absolutely.
Yeah. I do think it is at least a slight improvement for the offensive weapons and the skill position players in Carolina. I don't think just the fact that he's better than Sam Darnold, that's just my logical place. Now, how much? That's
the question.
Yeah, I don't think it all of a sudden vaults DJ Moore into what a lot of people want him to be, into this top 5 wide receiver. I think it's good for Christian McCaffrey, though. I think a more competent quarterback only can be a good thing for Christian McCaffrey. Terrace Marshall Jr. we talked about. So yeah, I mean, I haven't finished my redraft projections yet. Don't tell my boss, which is you. But I haven't finished yet. But it's probably not going to move the needle too much for me on DJ Moore, where I'm going to rank him. Maybe a couple of spots. I just think overall it'll be a better offense than it was going to be.
I agree. TS, are you comfortable at DJ Moore's current ADP? He's going somewhere between wide receiver 16 and 20. That could possibly bump up, though, giving this Baker Mayfield news. Are you in on that price?
I'm in on that price. I mean, if he's going at wide receiver 20, I'm definitely in. I think he's like top 12, maybe just outside. Also haven't done those projections or rankings, but it's kind of where I'd roughly put him. I don't think he's top 6, but I think he could be a solid value for sure. And other than him and Christian McCaffrey, I'm not super interested in anyone there, but I think it's definitely good for Baker, and it does give me a little bit more confidence in him. QB3, I'm definitely in on that. QB2, I waffle a bit more, but I mean, it depends who you have for that top guy. I just, I'm not super confident on.
So last week, according to Underdog Fantasy, 4 for 4 for giving us this data, wide receiver 15, DJ Moore's already moved up a couple of slots. That ADP is rising. I personally am kind of, the last couple of years, I've always kind of held my nose and drafted DJ Moore, and it's never benefited me. He had a couple spike games. All his games where he's over 20 PPR points happened in the first month of the season when Sam Darnold kind of went on that little tear. That was kind of nice. Nate was victory lapping in here on the Sam Darnold train. But only 7 TDs for Odell Beckham Jr. in 2.5 years with Baker Mayfield. And I know people are going to come in here, hey, Seth, that's a scheme. That's Kevin Stefanski. Well, I mean, I also saw Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs put up way better numbers in Minnesota with Kevin Stefanski's system as well. So it's tough for me to buy in at that price at DJ Moore. I honestly think I would rather wait, a couple rounds and get DK Metcalf. I think there's higher Brandon Cooks. There's higher upside, I think, later in drafts than DJ Moore. I'm just worried about it plateauing. But I will say the one thing Scott said that I do absolutely agree on, this is a bump for Christian McCaffrey to me. He's been hovering around somewhere, overall in my projections, player number 2 to player number 5, kind of mixed in there with Derrick Henry, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I think now he's going to be the clear number 2 in my rankings. We saw Kareem Hunt have a lot of success here with Baker Mayfield the last couple of years under center. So I'm just thinking, again, more scoring opportunities as well, better offense. And Matt Rule's got to go, man. I know we're hearing reports that maybe Sam Darnold gets this starting job to start the season, but Matt Rule, Penn State's own, State College's own, he is under the microscope, folks. He's on that hot seat. TS, is there anyone else outside of these two that you're looking at taking a deep shot on, whether it's Baker in a super flex or Marshall Jr., good old Robbie F. and Anderson down there as well?
Not really. I like Robbie Anderson, the player, but I don't think he's going to do anything with Baker.
Yeah.
Also, and I know this is just like hearsay, but him like threatening to retire with Baker, for one, I don't understand it because Baker's definitely an upgrade from Darnold. I don't know how you could look at the two of them and say, yeah, Sam Darnold should start.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to play with a guy, I get that. And I respect it. And it worries me. I don't know, hearsay, but I'm not wild about any of the prospects.
Okay. So I think what we're kind of saying as a collective here is in a super flex, if you need a borderline QB2, QB3 candidate, that's Baker Mayfield. Some of us are going to be in on DJ Moore at the price tag. I personally am out. Seems like you guys are a little more comfortable with that. Scott, any final thoughts here? Because it seems like CMC is moving up as well for you.
I'm comfortable with DJ Moore where we originally talked about him at like wide receiver. I think you said 16 through 20. If he's 15? If he's at 15 and rising, no, there's going to be other wide receivers in that range. I'm going to take over. DJ Moore to me is a little bit like Josh Jacobs as a wide receiver in that, like at the end of the season, it's going to look kind of nice. It's going to be like wide receiver 2, but he's not, other than a couple of random weeks here or there, he's not really doing a lot for you.
Absolutely.
So no, I was a big DJ Moore guy. I still think he has all the talent in the world, but it just at a certain point, regardless of the quarterback situation, if it hasn't clicked into him being worth that ADP, then it's probably not going to.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's a lot of great conversation on Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers. Good for them. Like hopefully this realistically at the end of the day, it is the best quarterback a lot of these guys in Carolina have played with. CMC, other than maybe his rookie year with a decent Cam Newton. But it'll be fun to see how it plays out. Over in my side of the woods, though, in Pittsburgh, Najee Harris came out this last week, had a very interesting quote, has some fantasy managers scared that his snap counts may come down. Najee was talking to Chris Adamski of the Pittsburgh Tribune, and he says that he's still going to be on the field a lot, but, quote, I will be on the field a lot, but on certain downs, I will not be on the field. So he's saying that he may get spelled, and he's just looking for some extra rest, he says, quote. So, Trash, are you concerned at all by this quote from Najee, or do you think this is just a guy trying to hype up his teammates here, early off season?
Yeah, I think it's more like hyping up his teammates. I'm not really worried. His teammates are Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland. I don't think that they're going to steal a ton of work from him. Maybe Najee isn't a bell cow. There's not a lot of bell cows out there. So I think Najee is still the guy. And if he comes off the field for a down or two, like, it's fine.
Yeah,
I think.
Guys, we have Mr. Scampers in the chat. What's up, Mr. Scampers? Good to see you, man. We also got Bo in the chat as well. Scott, what about you here? Do you still have – I know you and I are kind of shaking out our projections here, but I still can't see Najee probably shaking out any lower than RB 6 or 7 for me. When you really look at this, the opportunity was amazing last year. Number 1 in opportunity share, number 1 in snap share for RBs, but number 1 in targets and receptions as well, which I think is going, under the radar a little bit when you think of Najee Harris. What say you, Scott, and Najee this year?
I agree. I think that's just kind of some off-season talk. I mean, if they had anyone there to consistently and effectively come in and play a third down role, then I might be a little concerned, because Najee is actually the one saying it. But like Trash said, I mean, the other running backs there, they didn't address that situation. So I don't think that really matters. I'm totally good with where Najee is going. I mean, right now, a true, the bell cow backs we saw in the late aughts and the early teens, 2000s, they're becoming unicorns in this league. And so he is a true bell cow. Even if what he says means maybe his, opportunity share goes from whatever it was, like 95% to 93%, then sure. I mean, if you look at, I like to look at points per touch when I'm looking at like volume issues, because he was a volume guy. He wasn't a big yards per carry guy. He
wasn't efficient at all.
He wasn't a big explosive touchdown threat every time he touched the ball. He was a points based on volume. But his points per touch was right in the same range with Joe Mixon and some of the other backs. It really wasn't as bad as it might seem because he seemed like a low efficiency, high volume guy. Like, yes, he was, but if you take away a little bit of that volume, it's not really going to be as detrimental as you might think. So I'm good with him. I'm good. He's a volume, opportunity monster.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Tomlin throughout his entire history here with the Steelers, outside of the split that they used to have in the early mid-2000s with Deuce Staley and Jerome Bettis, it's always been one back, whether it's been Lev, whether it's been James Conner, Fast Willie, Rashad Mendenhall, and they don't have the, Trash, you kind of hit the nail on with the hammer, man. Anthony McFarland has never inspired me. Benny Snell has never inspired me. Kalen Ballage maybe has inspired me at times, but very, very briefly have I wanted to visit that Bellagio. Very, very briefly. There have been times. But yeah, I think Najee's still going to be a locked and loaded top 5, top 6 back for you. So if he's falling in drafts, take advantage is what we're telling you here. Next one I want to fire up for you guys here. This will be a great topic for us. We always have strong takes on this fella. Actually, we got a like on Instagram from his mom a couple weeks ago, and it was actually on my article dissing Cole Kmet. So she obviously didn't click the link, but she did. She did see the picture of him. She did double tap.
You got to be watching your back, Seth.
I know.
He has Google alerts set up, I'm sure.
Shout out Cole Kmet's mom.
I mean, players' moms have been all over the news this week. So.
How about it? Cole Kmet's might be the next. No, but guys, seriously, Cole is preparing for a key role in this new offense led by rookie offensive coordinator Luke Getsy. So he is someone that I've kind of come out publicly the last couple weeks, and I've said, I'm not paying the price. I'm not paying for tight end 13 overall, 133 overall when it comes down to total players. TS, are you in on Cole Kmet? He's obviously geared up for a big season. His mother also obviously geared up for a big season as well.
I am in at that price, and honestly, I'm like a little surprised that you aren't. I just think if you look at that tier of tight ends, you have the top 4, you have like maybe another 4 who are decent and reliable, and then after that, it's kind of a gamble. And I think tight end 11 to 13, I'm in on that gamble. I think he is going to stay the number 2 target. I don't see that changing, and I think he's going to get enough volume. I hope. I don't know. Fields, I really like him. I'm maybe a little concerned, but I really like him. So I hope he gets it together. And I don't know. I'm in on Kmet at that price. 10th round. I don't know. Who else are you taking there?
I don't know. I just see higher upside, whether it's some of these, late round RBs, Darrell Williams, a couple late shots at wide receiver, Kadarius Toney, something like that. I even like, just wide receiver or tight ends down the board more. I definitely like Hunter Henry a lot more. I'm even a big Brev Jordan guy as well. So there are some other people there. And I hear what you're saying, TS. The Kmet, and Dave here in the chat as well, saying he has a decent shot at a lot of volume. And Dave, you're 100% right. This guy was top 6 in targets last season. So as far as tight ends go, 93 is a lot of targets for a tight end. Also saw 19.7% red zone target share as well. So really good percentages here. However, he didn't capitalize, didn't score a touchdown. And as a tight end, that's kind of your bread and butter sometimes. Obviously, Jimmy Grandpa, he affected that, rolling him in a lot of times in the red zone as well. But just seeing that happen, the inefficiency with Cole Kmet, and I think the most startling statistic that I looked at was Chicago quarterbacks did not benefit when they targeted him. Normally, tight ends are where you go, especially as a young quarterback. They're kind of like your safety blanket. Chicago quarterback rating for when targeting Cole Kmet, 83.3% rating. So that is very down compared to what would be a league minimum or a league average for tight ends. Scott, do you have anything different here that maybe can get me back on the Kmet train? Because I'm total fade right now after seeing that 83.3% rating.
Yeah, I've got a few things to say about that. So the one thing I'll point out in what you just said is you had to say Chicago quarterbacks as opposed to saying a quarterback's name. Mm-hmm. And that's something I think I mean, maybe people are taking it into account, and it just maybe I think it's more of a impact. One, Justin Fields is a rookie. This is what drives me a little bit crazy about quarterbacks rookie years. Lawrence, Fields, Lance, all these guys get drafted. They're all hyped up. We all say, yeah, rookies typically struggle. Then they struggle, and everybody's like, oh, wait, these guys are trash. Not the good kind of trash that's co-hosting, but like, so it's just like, it's like the thing that was expected happens and everybody jumps ship. So it would be one thing also if Andy Dalton started the season, played a certain amount of games, and then Fields, learned the ropes and took over and played the rest. That's a more at least fluid situation that you could, I think, read more into. Now, it was Andy Dalton and Justin Fields, then Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. So I think from the get-go, and forget, Matt Nagy, calling the shots as well. So I don't think Fields was ever put in a position to be successful. I think as far as the rating to Cole Kmet, I mean, it was a different quarterback throwing it. They never could really get in sync. This year, Justin Fields has the entire offseason to practice with Cole Kmet. The 93 targets, I mean, I did a little bit of research into that. Yes, 0 touchdowns. You don't like to see that. But we talk a lot about Kyle Pitts and his positive touchdown regression coming with the amount of targets he had and the amount of touchdowns he had. I mean, Cole Kmet's an even bigger case for touchdown. I mean, I looked back to tight ends all the way back to 2000 who had more than 90 targets. The average touchdown percentage is like 5.5, which would have been almost 6 touchdowns for Kmet if he just.
It's likely going to come up, sure.
Yeah,
I think at the end of the day, I just struggle with this is an offensive-driven league. Matt Eberfluss is the new head coach. Here's a defensive side of the ball guy. I don't know much about Luke Getsy. I just can't put a lot of stock into him. There was a lot of OCs, a lot of head coaches that kind of shifted around. I got excited about him. O'Connell up in Minnesota, even Miami's new head coach. There was a lot of guys I was excited about, but this just was not one of them. So maybe I'm wrong here, but Scott, Trash, you guys make some very, very valid points here on Cole Kmet. I did want to, Albert has a question here, Kmet or Irv Smith. Albert, we're going to get actually into some Irv Smith analysis here in the next segment. So if you can stick around, we will absolutely flash back to this question. And I can actually kind of give you a little bit of where they shake out in my current tiers. And Scott, I'm sure, can add some input to that as well in the midst of our projections here. A couple more headlines for you guys. Again, some of this could just be noise. This is the season of noise as well. Trash, how do you feel about this one? Brandon Ayuk uneven at practices right now. Jack Hammer, the press Democrat, reporting that Brandon Ayuk has not spent a lot of time with Trey Lance this offseason. When he has, they haven't been on the same page. So how do you see things shaking out for Ayuk? Obviously, I mean, he was a huge bust last season. We can't really sugarcoat that. He kind of came on during the second half of the season, started to get, out of that doghouse a little bit. But can you trust Brandon Ayuk here? Because the ADP, I mean, it's dropping. He's still around in a lot of drafts late.
I'm worried about Ayuk. I'm worried about the Niners as a whole, if I'm being honest. I like Trey Lance, and I think he has talent. I think the San Francisco situation is not being managed well. Like, why is Jimmy G still on the roster, we'll say. Not that I think he's going to start, but it's a little concerning. I know they're like trying to maybe trade him. Just feels like, come on, do something. I think if you temper your expectations and you're like, Ayuk is a wide receiver 3-4, and you get a good value on him, great. I think he's talented. Last year was rough. I have him on some teams. The year before that was pretty good.
Glorious,
and I had
glorious.
hope. And he was not the most even, if you will, then either. So I think saying that he's still uneven does give me pause. Like maybe he just doesn't have a good connection with Lance, which would be a bummer. But I don't know. I don't want to say it worries me, but it maybe kind of worries me.
Scott, are you worried at all? And were you taking Brandon Ayuk even before this? Because he's someone we haven't talked about. I mean, maybe since November of last year. It seems like forever.
I mean, where Ayuk had kind of been settling in ADP was approaching a range that I was comfortable with, and I still am. And honestly, with news like this is probably just going to drop that further. I was wrong on it, like a lot of people. I was super high on Ayuk last offseason. Yeah. What I saw in his rookie year, I just assumed it would continue right into his sophomore season, and it couldn't have been more wrong. But I also was pretty big on Trey Sermon, so what do I know? But I agree. I agree with TS in that it is a little volatile right now, knowing what to expect from the San Francisco offense. Jimmy G is still there. There's still just like rumors that bounce around like, nope, Jimmy G is still going to start. Trey Lance isn't ready. They don't like Trey Lance, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, we have to sift through all the coach speak and the rumor mill, all off season long. But it's still there and it's weighing on me. So I'm not reaching for Ayuk. And, I was looking at him in SFB, and if he had lasted one more round, I would have probably grabbed him, but I didn't, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Absolutely.
I'd like to be wrong. I'm rooting for the guy. I think he's a really talented player. I'm a Pac-12 guy. He went to, I think, Arizona State.
Yeah, you are. You are the Pac-12.
Wait, no, sorry, it's Pac-10 now. It's back to Pac-10.
Yeah, how about it?
And then probably all the teams are going to move to some other conference. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with TS. I'm concerned.
So Dave asked the question here, what is Ayuk's current ADP? And Dave, in the last week on Underdog, he is going as wide receiver 41, which that's kind of right where he's shaking out. It seems like in my projections, don't have every team done, but kind of where he's looking to last year's wide receiver 40s. That was kind of where I had them with that amount of points. And I think that's, a solid place for him. I think the eliteness that we thought maybe Ayuk could have coming into his sophomore season, that's gone. Like, we didn't know Deebo Samuel was who Deebo Samuel really is. He can be a target hog. George Kittle can be a target hog. And if Deebo's not playing in the backfield this season a lot, they're going to get him involved on more quick outs, more screen passes. So it could take Brandon Ayuk's, opportunity share down even a little more. So if you need a wide receiver 4 that might have some boom weeks, that's Brandon Ayuk. But I think we're all saying just tread carefully. Do not overreach for him. And then just to answer this question as well, Mr. Scamper's asking, Nate, are you going on a trip or moving? I think Nate's out of the chat now. Very different feelings for each, Mr. Scamper. Nate's going to Mexico, so all good. He'll be back with us here in a couple weeks. They're going to go enjoy some time down there in Puerto Vallarta. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Puerto Vallarta. And okay. I think we're clarifying they're on vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not moving to Mexico right now.
Yes. Last headline for us, though, guys, for the night. Mike Evans does not expect Gronk to return. There's been, a lot of question marks. Hey, is he going to come back before the season? Is Tom going to give him that ring? And right now, Mike Evans is saying he doesn't expect him back. Obviously, maybe Mike Evans isn't the perfect person to ask here. But I think this just plays into Mike Evans' ceiling going even higher this year. Now he's kind of really made himself up into that tier, I think, right behind those top 3 guys, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. I think he's in that next tier there. And right now, for any of our aggressive bettors here in the offseason as well, his DraftKings DraftKings total for the year, 10.5 touchdowns for Mike Evans. I think he's absolutely going to smash that. So whether you can get that there, maybe some better odds on FanDuel, but I am absolutely smashing that over on 10.5. 27 touchdowns in the last 2 years, guys. Now, no Chris Godwin to probably start the season, no Antonio Brown, and no Gronk. So touchdowns need to be made up here. Are you guys with me here on pounding the table for Mike Evans?
Yes.
I'm all in on Evans. I'd push all my chips into the pot on Evans, which is weird because I've got my journey with Mike Evans has been a roller coaster. I think one of my first articles for IBT was about how he wasn't going to be able to sustain what he did his first year with Tom Brady. But for me, I like to look at sample sizes. I like to look at what's sustainable, what's probable, what are the odds something's going to be repeated. He's played 2 years with Brady. He's been a 12+% touchdown per target rate both years. And if Godwin starts off hurt and no Gronk and no Antonio Brown, I mean, obviously Tom Brady has a very good rapport with Mike Evans, especially when they get near the goal line. OJ Howard is gone, right?
Yes, sir. Buffalo.
Not that was a huge thing, but that now their tight end is Cameron Brate. So I don't think that's someone that's going to necessarily take a whole ton of red zone work away from Mike Evans. For me, like if you have to look at that next tier, who could jump from that next tier to be the wide receiver 1 overall? For me, it's Mike Evans.
Okay. Absolutely. Love that. Couple things real quick before we move on to our next segment of the night temperature check. We're going to talk about some recent moves in ADP, not just some headlines as well, but did want to bring up this comment from Toronto Dave. Smash the over, like smashing that like button. Dave, absolutely right. The easiest way to support us, guys, here at In Between Media. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps us. And subscribe to the channel as well. You're going to get that bell. You're going to, every time it goes off, you're going to be in here with the guys, chilling with Toronto Dave, Scampers, Albert, and the boys. So we appreciate that. And then here's a question for you, Scott, from Alan. Scott, you mentioned SFB.
I was going to ask you to put this one up.
Yeah, yes. Scott, you mentioned SFB. So who are some of the players you're targeting in later rounds, say rounds 13 plus? And we can go around the table here. TS, do you have any off the top of your mind? I know you're still in round 5, so we haven't got there quite yet, but are there any dart throws you want to throw out to our guy Alan here?
Give me a second. Let me figure out who's going there first.
Okay. Scott, what do you have for Alan here? I know you're kind of already in those rounds.
Let's see. What do I have for Alan here? Alan, I'm going to speak directly to you. Probably, I think 13 is where I'm going to start taking kickers. No, I'm just kidding. Alan's in my division, so I'm not going to answer this question. He's being silly. So you two can answer, but Alan is trying to get some insider knowledge.
Oh, is Alan a Pawnee division member then? Okay, interesting.
He specifically mentioned 13 plus because that's the round I'm picking in next.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and plead the 5th here, but you guys should answer.
Okay. Well, I will say this. I love helping people beat Scott in fantasy football leagues. So we talked about it earlier. Brevin Jordan, he's a great tight end sleeper. I haven't projected over a lot of these guys we're talking about here a little bit later. Irv Smith. Brevin Jordan, I think, is going to be a good one. If you need a dart throw QB3, Geno Smith, I like him. And then we actually just got some news out of Dallas today. Looks like the rookie Jalen Tolbert will probably be starting week 1. So I really like the upside on Jalen Tolbert if you need a late throw at receiver. TS, can you add any names to that?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I don't know. No, I think those are all good guys. I will say you're shitting on kickers, but I like the kicker strategy. I played at least 2 kickers for most of my week, sometimes 3, and I think I did one with 4, and I made it to the semifinals. So, take a kicker. Why not? We're having fun.
Absolutely. Dave,
I like Tolbert too, by the way. I think that's great.
Dave saying, I thought I was subscribed, was like WTF when I saw I wasn't. Wow. Well,
we've been
glad the YouTube clowns kind of settled things down there and you learned your lesson there. A couple other ones for me, I'm just going to throw out there as well. Darrell Williams. If anything happens to James Conner, Darrell Williams is probably going to get a big bump in value. So I don't mind throwing something late at him. And I know it's not a sexy pick, guys. I know it's not. But if he's around, Raheem Mostert might be a guy. He might be a guy that, you can plug into your starting lineup before he gets injured this year. So I look for Raheem Mostert if you need some of that RB depth, like I imagine Scotty does.
I'm seeing also Tim Patrick there. I'd go for Tim Patrick.
Yes.
I think, he's still going to be involved. I think he's going to have a good role.
I'm as far as a value pick, Tim Patrick's a really good one. I'll go ahead and say it, even though Alan's listening. But also go check out our boy Herm's NFL. He just wrote an article on the Broncos receivers for Fantasy Pros, and he talks a lot about Tim Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to my buddy.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our next segment of the night, temperature check.
Temperature check.
That's really spicy. Holy
So hot indeed. Temperature check. So we got some feedback on this segment, and I like to incorporate listeners, commenters, feedback into our segment. Temperature check. We've always had a scale of basically 3 different temperatures, like you would get a steak. There's rare, medium, and of course well. And I always thought, well being, the most well done, that's the best. But I've since learned in my, in my years aging here, that more people like rare steak. So on our scale for temperature check now, rare is the best. So if you're saying you're rare on something, you're hot, you like it. If you're saying you're medium, well, you're medium on it. Still same type of thing. But if you're well done, you're probably out on that, whether it's ADP, Fab, whatever that comes down to. But first one here for you, and Albert brought up a question a couple minutes ago. Who do you prefer, Irv Smith or Cole Kmet? And that's a great question here, Albert. Irv Smith is actually, his ADP is moving up as well with Cole Kmet right now. Tight end 11 in underdog drafts over the last week. How do you guys feel about that? And would you take him over Kmet? Obviously, I love the Minnesota offense, but I think Justin Jefferson is just going to have such a huge target share. It might not be worth it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd go medium because I think I'd prefer Kmet over Irv Smith. I would probably also take guys like Freiermuth, who Irv Smith, I saw him going in front of him.
Yes.
And Okwuegbunam, I'd take either of them.
Yes.
I think like Gesicki is the other one going around there. I'd probably go Irv Smith over Gesicki.
Okay.
My name is a mess this year.
Okay. I think I would personally probably go Gesicki just a little bit. I mean, I have some Penn State bias, so I can't say that for sure. I think Irv Smith, like I projected him out and I had Brevin Jordan above him. And I think Irv's going to have a good, solid season, but I think the upside just might not be there. I think they're really going to try to get Justin Jefferson a little more involved in the shorter game passes that they haven't. A lot like we saw Jamar Chase kind of get involved with in the second half of the season for Cincinnati. I mean, I have an absurd target amount for Justin Jefferson. I think my number came out like in the 180s, so it was very, very high. Scott, when you were kind of shaking things out for yourself, is tight end 11 too high for you on Irv? Because it is for me.
I would say medium though. I'm not going to go all the way to well done. I like Irv Smith. The problem is I just haven't seen anything yet. I'm definitely taking Cole Kmet over Irv Smith at this point because I've seen something. We mentioned it earlier, 93 targets. Just one last quick little plug for Cole Kmet. Since 2000, there have been 11 tight ends in their second year, 11, to get over 90 targets. 11 out of 117 tight ends that have gotten over 90 targets. So 10% of the tight ends that have done that have been able to do it in their second year. I just think it's more impressive than it seems because of the lack of touchdowns. So I'm in this particular circumstance, I'm taking the volume I already saw in an offense that I think is going to be better than last year over Irv, but I really like Irv Smith. And Irv Smith to me, like I have Irv Smith and Noah Fant in kind of the same spot where it's like, I haven't seen Irv Smith really play yet. Noah Fant's athleticism doesn't scare me, but his situation, I'm a Seahawks fan. His situation does scare me, at least this year. So that unknown is enough for me to tip the scales towards Kmet.
I think for me, it comes down to what type of league am I playing in. If I'm playing in a tight end premium league where I get an extra half point per reception or a full point per reception, I will go Kmet because I will take the volume play. However, if I'm in a generic league, if the right now at the ADP, I don't want either of them. I think like I would much rather have Pat Freiermuth. Trash, you kind of hit on that as well. But I think I would probably lean Irv in a regular league just because I like the offense better. I just don't trust the Bears this year. Outside of Monty, I don't see myself owning any Chicago Bears this season. But that's just me. So, and Dave here, he's saying he's playing Kmet in a tight end premium league. So, okay. And guys, let's go ahead and move on to our next ADP riser here. Kind of bearing the lead on this one, but guys, Zach Wilson is starting to slide in some drafts now. Couple comments have come out about him lately. The first one, football related, of course. What happened is people are saying his accuracy has not improved in camp, whether it be with Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore. Beat reporters are not liking what they're seeing out of Zach Wilson now. Someone is liking, though, what they're seeing out of Zach Wilson. Apparently, Zach Wilson, he was in some type of relationship with his mom's friend, is what we're hearing. Just some rumors. I guess his girlfriend put it out on Instagram. You know, she was kind of getting slayed in some comments because she's now dating. Was it Dax? Do you know who the other receiver is? Either of you guys know Dax Milne, Dax Klein?
I'm pretty sure it's Dax Milne, but I don't know anything about him.
He's one of the bench receivers on the Washington football team. They went to BYU together. They're homies. She recently broke up with Zach, went over to the homie here. She was kind of getting trolled on Instagram. She puts out this news. Fantasy Twitter's kind of been running wild with some pretty funny memes about it all. And you would think his ADP's gone up, but it's actually gone down lately. So any interest here in Zach Wilson, like on a serious note, QB 23 in Superflex League? I have a little bit of interest, but you guys know I've kind of been on the frisky Jets train this entire offseason. Now it just plays in even better that I've been saying that for 2 months. So TS, any interest here in Wilson? He's got a great supporting cast around him for once.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say medium because I do think he got a big upgrade this year, and I am hoping that it helps. He was just bad last year. I didn't really see anything that got me excited or gave me hope for the future, and I'd rather somebody who I know what I'm getting and they're proven and they're like, okay, this is like, I'd rather go Baker.
Yeah.
I'd rather go Carson Wentz. I don't like Carson Wentz, but I know what I'm getting. Maybe not Carson Wentz. But I just think I didn't see anything that impressed me. He got an upgrade. I hope he can get it together. I guess, like, if I'm going to draft, I don't know. If you're saying in a 1 QB league, I don't think I want him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I don't know. In a super flex, like maybe as QB3. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, in 1 QB, no way. In super flex, as long as it's not a charity league that has massive penalties for turnovers.
Yeah, or accuracy.
Then in super flex, my answer is always going to be the same with a quarterback who is a starter. Yes, I will draft them. You know, I mean, I'm not reaching. If I'm just in a general super flex league, I'm not, you know, at the right price. Yeah, I'm totally fine taking Zach Wilson because he doesn't have any competition. He's a starter.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, I don't know if high five bros is a good reason for rankings to be fluctuating. You know what I mean? Like why his rankings would be impacted at all by this news. But yeah, I mean, he was not good, and I don't think he's going to be very good. But again, my golden rule in Superflex, one of the first things somebody told me when I was figuring out how to play Superflex Dynasty was like, a starting quarterback has value.
Yeah.
I mean, it just does. It's, you know.
Yeah. You know why I think, sorry.
No, go ahead, DS.
I was going to say why I think he went down in the ADP is because we kind of forgot about him. And then the news of him resurfaced and we're like, oh yeah, Zach Wilson.
That could be true. I will say, I think if they can use Garrett Wilson correctly, you know, a shorter A-dot, get him out in space, some yard after the catch, I like what we could maybe see from Zach Wilson. And Breece Hall, just having him in the backfield, if they also use him to his full advantage, I think that horrid completion percentage could go up. So I think there is some happy upside here. I think it's like you guys said, though, he's a QB3 with some upside, but also, I mean, he could be, once again, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league like he was as a rookie. But I'm holding out hope for those frisky Jets, guys.
I'm super curious, though, because the Jets do have an exciting young offense now. And I think probably I'm a little bit more if I'm going to be excited about Zach Wilson, it's going to be in 2023 because Elijah Moore will be going into his third year. Garrett Wilson will be in his second year. Breece Hall will be in his second year. Like they could have something going by then.
It's an interesting year for the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, they could. I mean, I don't think Zach Wilson's not taking any kind of Joe Burrow leaps, but they remind me a little bit of the Bengals of being a team that's just been atrocious, whose offense could get real exciting quickly.
Yeah. One of the last ADP risers we have, guys, is someone that you've both actually talked about in your last couple episodes of Pulp Fantasy, where you guys combine pop culture, whether it's movies, TV shows, with kind of fantasy football, what's happening on Twitter, what's kind of happening out on the field as well. And it's Gabriel Davis. He's up 5 spots right now. He's going overall on Underdog, 43 overall. So all offseason, he's just been continuing to climb. He is now going ahead of Breece Hall, Jerry Jeudy, George Kittle, and Darren Waller, just to name a few.
What?
Last time we saw him, he had 4 touchdowns. But is he worth a pick in the early 4th round in redrafts?
What were those names you just said?
Darren Waller, George Kittle, Jerry Jeudy, and Breece Hall. He's going ahead of all of them.
Oh, that's ludicrous speed.
No.
That's ridiculous. Sorry. That just really surprised me. No way.
And another report came out today. I didn't check on. I didn't get to read the full thing, but something about he's brought his weight up more. He's a much, he's been beefing up. So now the hype could be even more by the time
he's trying to get up to that Kelvin Benjamin weight.
So I personally I think Gabriel Davis has a lot of upside. He slid in our Scott Fishbowl, and I was kind of intrigued about taking him. I didn't get around to it, of course. Hashtag sniped once again. But I think at that price, I mean, at this price in the Scott Fishbowl, we're talking wide receiver 30 something. But in redraft here, I mean, we're talking early wide receiver 20 something. I can't pay that price for a guy who I haven't seen it doing in the regular season. It sounds like you guys are kind of on the same train here.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, if you want to see people arguing about Gabe Davis, you can just go to Twitter and search Gabe Davis, and you'll be reading for hours. But as far as that whole back and forth, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not a big, huge Gabe Davis fan, but I'm also not this hater that just thinks he sucks. But that is crazy to me. Yeah. Those names you just mentioned. If I'm in a league where I'm on the clock or I'm on deck and somebody takes Gabe Davis and lets Darren Waller fall to me, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I like him as a player. I think he's talented. That's way too spicy for him. I also, and this was kind of surprising to me, he was the 5th target on their offense last year. He was behind Beasley and Sanders, who are both still on the team. And I don't think that they're that feels a little fluky to me, but I worry about him. I think it's a high-powered offense, but I think there's a lot of competition, and I'm not in at that price. That's for sure. I'd much rather Waller. Geez, all day, every day.
Beasley and Sanders both gone. I will say that, but Isaiah McKenzie, he's back. Jameson Crowder's there as well, who it could also kind of be a little target hog in that slot area as well.
And James Cook, who I love now.
There you go. There you go. Hey,
no, real quick though, I'm a Seahawks fan. I often, probably more often than I should, think about what the world in my life would look like had they given the ball to Lynch in the Super Bowl instead of throwing it. I start to think about what the world would look like if Gabe Davis had not caught 4 touchdowns in a game in the playoffs. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have had any, maybe this all would still be happening, but I really doubt it. Yeah. I really doubt he'd be the most polarizing person on Twitter if he did nothing in that game. It's just
tiresome, honestly. I like him, but I'm done.
Well, that's the thing. I just the only effort I put into it is bits on Pulp Fantasy.
Yes. Exactly. Yep. Well, that's why I love and appreciate you guys. And that's what we do here at IBT, guys. We combine feel-good lifestyle advice, whether it's pop culture, whether it's the spirits variety that we do over at the 19th hole, whatever it is, we got your fix here at IBT. So we're going to bring some of that feel-good lifestyle advice into the show here with weekly advice.
Weekly advice.
Right. Weekly advice, our way of giving the advice that sometimes you do and or do not ask for. This time, got a question for you guys because, as a media professional, I always try to look up to my superiors, my colleagues, and just try to learn from them. And I feel like both of you can, kind of give me a lot of valuable advice. Scott, you've worked remotely for quite a long time now since the COVID pandemic. And TS, you're also a media professional up there in Vermont as well. So my question here for weekly advice, guys, is in a remote-friendly working world, how do you balance working in the summer and your other commitments, whether it's vacation, time with family, trips, graduation parties, whatever it is, because, especially as fantasy analysts, we have to be on all the time. So, TS, I want to hand this off to you first. How do you kind of balance that, especially as a media professional where you're trained to be on your phone all the time?
Yeah, so the easy answer for me is I don't balance it. I'm in a weird position. My job is really place-based. I work in marketing and I market a town, and I work part-time in the office, and part of the time I work in my remote office, which is about half a mile down the road from my regular office, also in the middle of said town. There is no work-life balance in that. Shocking. Yeah. No, I mean, I make time for myself, obviously, but the easiest way for me is just get out of town. I can work remote if I get out of town, but it's so hard because my job is so intrinsically linked to where I live and this town that I'm I want to get out and I want to not think about work and that's cool.
And TS, kind of like when you just leave your, wherever you're working, kind of get out of there. Is it something like you just don't go on certain apps on your phone that would remind you of work? Or is it you're just not going to look at certain texts from certain people? Or is it just kind of a mindset you get? I feel like Vermont's always been a very nature-driven place. So is it kind of just getting out, getting unplugged a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I will say I'm a little guilty of like checking my emails or whatever and I'm trying to not do that, but a little bit. Definitely the apps is a big thing. Like I do Facebook for work and I will not use Facebook personally. Can't catch me on there. Instagram I do use for work and I'm starting to a bit for my dog, but those are really different. Twitter.
Hashtag Stell, baby.
Yeah. Somebody once asked me if we should have a Twitter for work and I was like, absolutely not. I'm the boss of this. And I said no. So that's kind of cool. I mean, yeah, Vermont, you're surrounded by beautiful things. It's nice to get out. And I'm pretty fortunate that I can do that, right from my house, which is nice. It's hard to unplug at times, but I'm trying to be better. As my boss likes to say, nothing that we do is life or death. And she is absolutely correct.
That's great. I really like that. And, that's something I think I need to work on a little bit better personally. Scott, what say you, man? Because, I mean, you're obviously a dad. You're a different position than TS and I are. You have two awesome little girls. You have a wonderful wife, a home. You have responsibilities in life. In addition to IBT work, you hammer out the work over at Fantasy Data, and you're just a big, proponent in this, in this entire space as well. So how do you kind of balance this all? Especially, I know you love to camp. You're going this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. I mean, so for me, the like day job work-life balance has gotten better because the reason I left one of the biggest reasons I left my former employer over 3 years ago was because of work stress. And what I realized is some of it was just the nature of the industry, but a lot of it was self-inflicted. A lot of it was me setting these unsustainable paces with work and with checking in on work. And TS said it perfectly, and it was my boss at that job was the one that told me this too, but it was too late. What is no one's sitting on an operating table waiting for you to operate on them here. Like what we're doing is not life and death. Yes, respond when it's something that absolutely has to be responded to when you're not on the clock. But ever since I started my new job 3+ years ago, been my biggest focus is when I log out for the day, when I go camping, when I'm doing that, sure, I am sometimes not super present with my family because of Twitter and fantasy football, but it's not because of my day job work. I went on a week-long vacation recently. I didn't check my work emails once. I honestly didn't really think about work, and that's relatively new for my brain. But I've spent a long time getting there. So that's been amazing. Plus I'm fortunate to work with a team in an environment where it can be that way. Like we have people that work nights that can take care of stuff at night and all that kind of stuff. For me, the balance is really between the three and then this, cause like going camping. So we're leaving tomorrow night. We're going till Sunday, no service. Mondays is due Sunday. And the SFB draft's going. So I need to make sure I take care of what I've committed to before I do those things. Because that's how I enjoy myself when I'm off is like, I focus on in the time I'm working or in the time I've allotted to work on fantasy or whatever it is, to get to meet my goals. And that way, when I do go on vacation, I've done everything I can. So nobody has to call me being like, hey, this thing's going crazy. So, my biggest piece of advice is just like, I know it's hard because I did it forever. Is just, if you don't need to be thinking about work or checking in on work when you're not working, just don't.
Guys, I appreciate your advice on this. This is something I still struggle with, and I'm a freelancer now. So I obviously don't have paid time off and, some of these other perks. So I am consistently working. I mean, right now I'm geared up at an Airbnb we're at, in the Poconos Mountains, pretty far away from home. And It's something I will say, while I don't have advice on this specific thing, I will echo exactly what you guys said, and I really appreciate that insight. The other thing I will say too is I think it just goes back to the overall message of In Between Media. We are A in life, and we want to get to B, but we have to remember to enjoy the in-between. And that is so valuable, and I think we will always come back to that as a company, and I hope we do. But to anyone out there listening tonight, just enjoy that in-between, because sometimes you don't ever get to B, or sometimes B, when you get there, you look back in the journey and you wish you had appreciated it a little more. At least that's what's happened to me in times, and I've talked to a lot of other people as well. Sometimes you get to B, and it's not all what you thought it was cut out to be. It's more relief just getting there. So remember to enjoy that time in between. Guys, I absolutely enjoy all the time in between I get to hang out with Scott. And can we let's give a round of applause for TS here on our first podcast. Crushed it.
Yeah, for sure.
super nervous. I'm still super
and the Pulp
nervous.
Fantasy. The Pulp Fantasy last month was hilarious.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I had fun.
That was awesome.
I will say I did initially say no to that. Seth may recall I said no. I took my dog for a morning walk, and as I was out walking, I thought of like 3 jokes, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Let's go.
There you go. Yep.
So,
guys,
awesome.
Make sure you're following along with Trash Sandwiches on Twitter. She's at Trash Sandwiches on Twitter. All her content is absolutely glorious. If it's right in the mold what we're doing here at IBT, and it meshes with Scott's content as well at Munder Difflin FF on Twitter. These guys are two of the most entertaining, funny, but also at the end of the day, they have, Scott, you kind of touched on a very serious subject at the end of your last Pulp video, and that's what I love about you guys. That's why I love what we do here, at In Between Media. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in tonight. Again, if you want to support what we're doing here at In Between Media, the easiest way is subscribe on YouTube. That goes a long, long way. If you guys are interested in more of what we're doing here at IBT, we have an entire website full of columns. We got some more stuff coming out this in season as well. And if you want to get more of us, join our Discord, guys. Just DM me on Twitter. We have a Patreon with different tiers, but we can get you in the Discord for free. We'd love to chat with you guys and give you, free advice. It's going to help you win money, win championships, but at the end of the day, win life as well. So, for Scott, for Trash Sandwiches, for everyone here In Between Media, I'm Seth, and we will be back here real shortly, guys. Until next episode, keep it in between. Your destination for both some feel-good lifestyle advice and some fantasy football advice.